Hello there, folks, and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka that Tellest guy, and I am joined here by my lovely co-host Rihanna
Hello.
and our not so lovely co-host Luna,
She's wonderful.
who is very much interested in screwing things up again today.
She's a stumpy, curious girl, and it's a feature, not a bug.
She's bite curious.
She's fine.
um, Today we got started a little late just because there was some stuff that I had to do outside of the talking Tellest stuff, and then getting things started took a little bit longer than I wanted to. But we're talking about something fun today. There are a lot of like treasures and artifacts and things like that in the Tellest universe, and we are at this point, I think, on the website. Rihanna said that we had what, 41.
Mhm.
41 items on the website as far as treasures go. If we take a little step into our art gallery, I've already moved us down there. These are all the artifacts that I currently have up on the website. Oh, you know what? It was the treasure chest. That's what brings us to the 41,
I see.
because that was one that I had Azot do separately. So we're going to start at the top with 10 of our items, and then depending on what the timing looks like, we might do a volume 2, volume 3, volume 4, that kind of stuff. Because we're going to try and give each of the items, like their time to shine. I know Rihanna's really excited to get to certain items.
Certain ones,
but
yeah. But do you want to do like an overview of how the artifacts work real
Yeah.
quick and tell us like they're imbued with magic?
Right. So,
How so?
If you've listened to this channel before and you've heard Talking Tellest, we've talked about the strain, which is basically kind of like the way that the aether and the weather in Tellest kind of intertwine in some ways. So, depending on where you are, if you're a person, you can get strange talents and things like that. If you're a location, sometimes like the natural elements of the world can get imbued with this magic, and the same goes for treasure. Sometimes it's a natural phenomenon where an item that was crafted in a certain place, you know, inherits some strange abilities. Sometimes it's the creator themselves is the one who ends up making it magical.
An artificer.
Right, an artificer, and sometimes it doesn't have to be a mortal creator. It can be one of the gods, because we do know that some of these artifacts were created by the gods, and sometimes it goes a step beyond any of those things that we were talking about. So we'll talk about each of them a little by little. Do you want to bring up anything else before we go into the individual artifacts, or?
Yeah, just I don't think we talked about it before. So the gods of Tellest are not like theoretical; they're like entities. Like,
Oh yeah, you can
okay,
actually
like they're actual like beings,
Right.
not like I believe in this one
Right.
that's doesn't also exist.
Rihanna is very much, and to me a lesser extent, but still somewhat, a big fan of Hercules and Xena.
Oh yeah,
And that's
so
kind of like
corny.
that's kind of the way that I've envisioned, the way that the gods show up in the world of
Like
Tellest.
like
And to
actual agents that
yeah,
mess things up.
and to an extent, like how we see it in Percy Jackson and stuff like that. So you will see in some cases, in the world of Tellus, the gods will show up. They don't really do it too often, I don't think. In the new, they are a little bit more abstract in the new timeline, and that's by design. We wanted them to be a little bit less in your face and everything like that. But in the Child of the Stars trilogy, at least three of the gods are very out there, because
Right.
they're in the original timeline, the gods are related to a couple of the characters and everything like that, which is again very Hercules and Xena and Percy Jackson and everything like that.
Greek
Yep.
philosophies.
So we will talk about at least one of the gods as we're describing these items. But what do you think? Are we ready to dive in?
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in. All right. So we're gonna go to. I've already separated all these, so we can just jump in. Pardon me for a second as I cough. So the first item that we have up is Wildfire, which is in the original timeline Chaos Cregan's magical sword. So this sword was found in a volcano, if I'm remembering my own book correctly, and it was the third of three Child of the Stars artifacts that Chaos found. And the concept of the Child of the Stars artifacts is that there's more than one Child of the Stars, as we begin to learn. And anybody who is a Child of the Stars would be able to bear these weapons and make their magic kind of exist and happen.
I did want to comment on the art slightly. So I think this, like the artist style here, he took a lot of creative license to make things a little bit more ornate than I think they were like described and perceived. But it looks awesome.
Yep. So one of the
Very
things, the most prolific at this point artist who we had worked with who did the treasure pieces. His name is Azat. He actually is an artist who lives in Ukraine. When the battle between Ukraine and Russia broke out, he switched to making maps for the army.
That's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
That's a cool side story right there.
Yep. So last I heard, that's what he was doing. He did a couple of like more like artsy concept pieces for us because he's the one that did the underwater scene for us and the floating islands and everything like that.
Gorgeous art.
Yep. So he did those.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, he presented like the rough sketches of these, and we're like, they were supposed to be more plain, but we're not getting rid of that.
Right,
like,
right.
my goodness, that's a gorgeous piece of design there.
And I think that might have also been part of the reason that we kind of leaned into the new timeline as well, was because I was very, hey, let's keep this like grounded in the original timeline, and it's just more fun to play with things like this in the new timeline.
It's high fantasy. Let it be, whatever it needs to be.
Yep. So Wildfire's design is obviously, you've got the flaming longsword, and it came from a volcano and everything like that. The nature of this sword is that its wielder, as long as they're a child of the stars, can absorb fire attacks and light the sword on fire. They don't need to absorb the fire attacks to make it light on fire, but
it's bonus ammunition.
Yeah. Well, the bonus is the absorption, because it protects you from that kind of thing. So that is Luca's third, and I think his favorite of the artifacts that he got. The other thing is the way that he kind of had these presented. There was another person who showed up in his life out of the blue, which I think was probably another one of the problems that we kind of run into. But originally what I was trying to do in the original timeline was introduce another character in his like prequel series, to kind of give you the idea that this person did exist before. He did meet them before, didn't really realize it. But in any case, she kind of is the one who lets him know, hey, you've got these artifacts that are coming your way, you just need to be aware of them. And then the person who ended up kind of showing up in that universe and telling him, hey, this is an item, was Galvin, the god of crafts. So that was the first but not last god that he ran into in the Child of the Stars trilogy. We're going to bounce back and forth between Child of the Stars artifacts, because I just have this up as far as the way that it was presented in the art gallery. So the second one that we have is the Sky Talon. Again, when we originally conceived of this, it was just a plain grappling hook. There's no way that we're going back to plain grappling hook.
Right, after all the design. Because I think, like, the concept was, like, it's supposed to look like an ordinary grappling hook or sword, and an opponent wouldn't be like, oh, I need to run away.
Right. And in some cases, we do have, like, even within the stuff that Azat did, we do have some stuff that kind of leans in that direction, but not, it's still a beautiful piece, but we'll get back to that. In this case, the Sky Talon is a grappling hook that the wielder can will to stop in midair. So a regular grappling hook you would throw to the top of like ramparts or a cliff or something like that, and you would kind of hitch it in place. But the Sky Talon ends up being something that we've seen Chaos use to kind of just traverse the landscape in ways that are much easier than a normal person would.
Just imagining, whee!
Yep, and then at the end of the swing,
whee!
Take it, swing it back up. It is a very fun way to give some of the characters mobility. Like, we try and describe the Tellest universe as medieval superheroes, and you gotta, at some point when they like move from like C tier to B tier, like, you get as close as you can to flying without actually flying. So we've got quite a few people who...
Kind of Spidey-Man, if you think about it.
Kind of Spider-Man. We definitely have another character who's got even more Spider-Man kind of powers that he leans into. But this little artifact is a fun thing that we got to introduce to Luca / Chaos. And the fun part about it is, As far as the lore goes, I know, and I think you know to some extent, I might have told it to you and you might have forgot, but Chaos has no idea how he got this.
Oh, fun.
There's like 3 items in his possession that he's like, I got no idea. Like, where did these come from?
Well, his whole thing is like seeking out magical artifacts, so I guess he's a bit of a hoarder at some point.
Well, it's a little bit that, and a little bit there are things in the Tellest universe that will make you lose your memory.
Yeah.
So
the I don't know if this is accidental or not. I'm just noticing it, but like that, like the crystal kind of feature on top, kind of reminds me of the crystals shown in like the fall floating islands kind of thing. So that would be a fun little, if it's not part of the lore, make it part of
it. Just kismet.
Just right now.
All right, so we'll move on to Azeros, which is, it was really the MacGuffin of the Child of the Stars trilogy. The idea was, historically in the Tellest universe, there was a fallen angel named Semilaz who, well, prior to becoming, a fallen angel, his name was Semil. But he ended up, being cast out of the heavens, or at least the Tellest version of the heavens, and recruited an army of demons to fight on his behalf. And the god of crafts, again, Galvin, who we've talked about, he ended up crafting 2 gauntlets, a blue one named Azeros, and a red one named Violoth. And we've made the red one before just by changing the hue of this piece right here. And Azeros is a gauntlet that allows the wielder to create shields, and the other one allows the user to create fire magic and fireballs and stuff like that. But Luca, Chaos, ended up, he's not Luca in that timeline, but I get stuck in the idea, because there's 3 versions of him at this point. Anyway, so Chaos, in the Child of the Stars trilogy, ends up going to the ruins of Kafka, which we've seen, I think, in some concept pieces. It is a buried castle. Like the mechanism of the castle is that in order to protect itself, it ends up burying itself in the dirt. And that came from the inspiration that I had from Final Fantasy VI, which you'll know is like one of my favorite games ever. And he was the sole character who went into the ruins to, be the Indiana Jones of that story. And he's very much an Indiana Jones in the current timeline, but he's not on his own typically. At part of the adventure is being able to go somewhere with somebody, have conversations and things like that. I don't think that I'm ever going to have a character by themselves again, because it really kind of detracts from. But anyway, in the end of that little stint of his journey, he ended up finding his way to this gauntlet hooked into like a wire that was hanging from the ceiling, and when he grabbed it and put his hand in it, it started to spin him towards the ceiling, and he thought that he was going to get chewed up by the gears at the top of the tower, and then just ended up above ground with the gauntlet finally in his possession.
Dumb question.
Yeesh.
If, let's say, a person were to find the glove like a gnome, perhaps, would the glove fit the gnome, or is it just useless to a...
I mean, it's not useless, but he would. It's not going to be like the One Ring where like
it just fits
when Sauron wore it, it was the big ring, and then when who was it?
Bilbo.
No, not Bilbo. It was the guy who chopped off his fingers, or his dad chopped off his fingers. Isildur. I'm sorry. When he ended up grabbing hold of it, you could see in the movie the ring shrunk to fit his hand. But no, this was built by Galvin, who is, when you see him in human form, he's human size, so he made it like that. But that's not to say that, a gnome wouldn't be able to kind of stuff his hand in there or something like that.
2 of them.
Yeah, it would be more challenging if like a giant found it.
Right.
Like, it's on my pinky. Why is this not working?
The shield is too small.
So that's where we land with Azeros. And like I said, it ended up being the MacGuffin. Chaos had found the gauntlet, and then when Blacklane discovered that it had been found, they laid siege to Adelatha to get hold of it. So the Heart of Arias is the next one that we'll talk about. Arias is the god of love in the Tellest universe, and this was in the possession of Alicia Maine, who was briefly Chaos's love interest, and he got this for her in like a game that happened in like early in their friendship, like when they were in like their single digit age and stuff like that. And little did anybody know that we mentioned this person before. Semi-Alaz, the fallen angel, is actually within this amulet.
Oh, dun dun dun.
Yep. So the actual it's part of a timeline that doesn't exist anymore. So
it was from 17 years ago.
17 years ago, 20 years ago, 23. I don't know how long at this point. So the heart itself, the artifact by itself, has the ability to allow its wielder to kind of cast clerical magic, but the fallen angel inside is what gives Alicia the ability to cast her fire magic and things like that.
Very cool.
Now, in the current timeline, her powers differ somewhat, so we've explained different ways for her to be able to cast both of those kind of spells, whether that's training or something altogether different.
I think that she was a little too boilerplate in the other timeline. I think that in this one, it's more of she's a power-hungry learner.
We've done some very cool things with her.
Right.
And one of the things is she discards this heart in Enemy Within, because she realizes that there's an entity inside who's starting to make her lose her mind. Because she is kind of vanilla in book 1.
Right.
You stopped reading it book 2 because I killed one of your favorite characters.
Yep, and I'm still salty over that.
Even though in a new timeline he's alive.
I don't care.
But in book 3...
It wasn't good.
Now...
Pointless. Would not have it.
So in book 3, she discards it, somebody else finds it, and she starts to lose her mind and things like that. So it was kind of a fun reveal. But Alicia is at least free from its grasp at this point. But that's not to say that Semi-Alaz doesn't want to get back to her, because he does feel that strength inside her as well.
So this will be recorded forever on YouTube, but this was just a what if moment. So you said it's a pendant made by or for the goddess of love, or associated with the goddess of love?
Yeah, it was associated with the goddess of love.
So what if the idea of it is to preserve the life of someone that you love by trapping them in the thing, but
so it could be used for a different reason,
right? But
yeah, well,
Mofo took hold of it. He went in where he shouldn't have been.
Could have been. Well, so the whole concept of Semi-Alaz within the lore of Tellest was he had the army and everything like that. They used Azeroth. He had Vieloth, and how are you supposed to beat that? And then they had this, and he's not the only demonic kind of character who's been trapped in an item before. We don't actually have any art for that, but Archangel was a sword that Ramus Youngblood used, and the big villain from book 3 ended up trapped in that when Miter Coldwhistle found it and became Miter Earthshaker. Anyway,
cool.
Ramble complete. This is another one of the forgotten items. This is one that
looks like the thing you used to draw on the tablet.
A little bit. It looks like a Parblo glove.
Yeah.
So this is the Iron Kiss. The again, as I was saying to Rihanna, this is one of the items that Chaos has in the Child of the Stars trilogy that he has no idea how he got it. Now, I mentioned it. Do you remember what it is? I mean, it's funny if you don't, because it is something that's intentionally forgotten.
Nope.
So, you might recall that at some point you guys were chorus champions in the Dungeons and Dragons campaign, right?
Right.
And she has the Forgotten Keep. That's where he found this. It's the Forgotten Keep for a reason.
That's funny.
Yep. So you
don't recall.
You don't recall. Yep. The Forgotten Keep is kind of like the dungeon from Quantum Quest in that it kind of will go all the way around the world, show up in random places, kind of like a Howl's Moving Castle kind of situation, except it doesn't literally move, it kind of teleports. And furthermore, the inside will change as well. Like, it alters its appearance in a lot of different ways. And Chaos ended up getting this, and the magical quality of this item is that it opens mundane locks. So you can bring those two fingers up to a lock and just kind of shift your fingers and it unlocks. Kind of like a magnet, but it'll work for any mundane lock as long as there's no...
Lock your keys in your car.
Which they don't have in Tellest. But you make a good point. All right, we are at 21 minutes, so let's take a break and we'll go to our sponsors, and it'll be fun. And now, a word from our sponsors. Always hard at work on multiple series, author Aaron Renfro is currently making magic with the penultimate book in his Resonance Cycle series. Night Unleashed sees the lit RPG series character mainstays coming to terms with the fact that, though they may have supernatural talents, even they can bleed. With the final battle not far off, Renfro puts the pieces into their positions, leaving a promise for readers and fans that what is to come will be nothing short of legendary. If you enjoy lit RPGs and isekai adventures, you'll be fully immersed with the magic and splendor of Night Unleashed, the 6th book in the Resonance cycle. Check out our promo on the Tellest website this week. Lit RPG newcomer Italian Dragon has grand aspirations of a tremendous, interconnected multiverse. Their debut, Third Path of Creation Book 1, Traveler's Journey, an Omniverse series, is the first step toward mastering the foundation of those interwoven worlds. Traveler's Journey is a lit RPG that certainly does what it sets out to and introduces readers to an overpowered main character who uses their wits just as much as their newfound abilities. Oh, and they get to turn into a dragon. What more could readers want? If you're looking for a lit RPG that leans into the fantasy elements just as much as game theory, check out the promo for Third Path of Creation Book 1, Traveler's Journey, an Omniverse series on the Tellest website today. All right, and as best I know, we are back. I've got the confirming nod from Rihanna. So we're on the back half of our Volume 1 treasures today. We are going to be looking at the next treasure, which is the Ring of Amplification. While we were on our sponsor page, Rihanna was going, pretty.
It is. It's very pretty.
So the Child of the Stars, the group of the Child of the Stars people, which I don't care, I'll spoil it, is their siblings. So gasp, yeah. Their symbology is a blue triangle and a blue sun. So that's why you have the shape of the jewelry on this ring. And basically what it does is any Child of the Stars who bears this ring, it amplifies their power. So we've got at least 2 characters who we know in the Child of the Stars trilogy who have, you know, the ability to wear this ring, and we've seen it do something for them. So Chaos's power was the power of precognition in the previous timeline. There's 3 timelines in the previous timeline. So this helped him, you know, attune to that precognitive power. But at the end of the Child of the Stars trilogy, we did like the Guardians of the Galaxy, like 5 freaking endings. Or Lord of the Rings is probably more pertinent. And one of the people who we saw at the end of that trilogy was Bolt Thunder Fury, who ended up grabbing the ring out of a stream that he found it in while he was on his way to Daltane. His precious. And he had the electrical powers, and this enhanced his electrical powers, thereby identifying Bolt Thunder Fury as another Child of the Stars.
So he didn't electrocute himself when he pulled it out of the water?
No, because he has to wear it.
Just being a, you know.
Just being a, you know. So I will reveal that there are 6 other Children of the Stars. So the 8 points of the sun is kind of like your hint there as well.
Captain Planet.
Yes. No. There's only one ring. So moving on. So this is the 3rd of the treasures that Cass found in the Child of the Stars trilogy in Book 1. And this one, in theory, would have had the symbol, but as soon as he put it on, it kind of washed off. It looked like paint that was dripping off of the armor. So this is supposed to be kind of like chainmail, scale mail, that kind of thing. But when a Child of the Stars wears it, it feels like it might as well be a t-shirt. Like, it's very lightweight. Kind of like how in Lord of the Rings when he put it on the Mithril shirt.
Yeah.
You know, which, by the way, we have discussed is actually Legolas's baby shirt. Fun fact for anyone who does not know, it was given to Frodo and described to him as a shirt that once belonged to an elven prince. No one is the size of a hobbit, so it had to have come from someone who was a child elf at that point, and the only one who's still around in the Third Age is Legolas. He's the only elven prince, so he's wearing Legolas's baby clothes.
Totes adorbs.
So more than once in the Tellest universe, someone has taken a stab at Chaos, and it just kind of stops like a weapon, just point blank. Now that's not to say that like a ballistic attack wouldn't send him flying back. Right. It doesn't stop the progress of a bullet or anything like that, but
like a cannon fire would still bust a rib. Like,
oh yeah. I mean, it would send him flying or something like that.
Puncture-proof.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in a car and you hit somebody else, like you're still getting thrashed around inside it. And again, we're going into a lot of other movies here and talking smack on them, but Indiana Jones would not have survived in the refrigerator.
Yeah, that's a movie mistake for sure.
While we're on the topic of like being bulletproof and weapon-proof and everything like that, that was one of the powers of one of our characters in the Child of the Stars trilogy as well. You recall David Garrus had the bulletproof ability, but same thing for him. Like a catapult stone will land by him and it doesn't protect him from that. Like there's still some level of force that is expended with that kind of thing.
A cat scratch does nothing. A dragon scratch gonna hurt.
Yeah, he's gonna go flying. He's gonna go flying.
He's gonna go flying.
So we have moved away from the chaos equipment, and we are up to his bestie in the Tellest universe. So this is the Spectrum, which we've kind of taken aspects of this item and sorry, we got noise outside, so we're closing our windows. Thank you.
Yep.
So we've taken elements of this weapon and we've kind of brought it into the new timelines. The Spectrum was the artifact that Steel Tip was all about trying to find, and he ended up taking his trip to Clifton where his brother had gone and hidden this item. And using the Spectrum does two things. It's kind of like the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon where you can draw back the string and it'll just make arrows, which kind of defeated the purpose of him having his awesome quiver that just produces arrow after arrow after arrow, which we'll see in a few moments. But the other thing that it did was it was like a sniper rifle in a bow. It allowed the user to, as they drew back the bowstring, it would enhance their vision and they would see their target even easier. So we kind of took that idea and it defeats the purpose of him having to go and find this weapon in the current timeline. His current ability is
like eagle vision.
Right, so he can focus his eyesight and see better than anybody else. Kind of a weird talent to have.
But it makes more sense for him as an archer.
Right.
Like, for him to have the ability to make it unique versus, like, if someone else got their hands on this bow, they would be able to do the same thing.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be, for archery purposes or anything like that, because one of the things that we've learned about him in his own first book, which was The Silver Serpent, is he's kind of a vigilante spy as well. So like him being able to kind of spy on things from far away really helps to sell his story a little better as well. But he does end up still getting Woodchuck, which is his enchanted quiver that he gets from the elves of Sepenadil. So in Heart of the Forest, which was his second book in the Tellest universe in the new timeline, he ends up getting this quiver from the elves. And the whole concept of this quiver is that he can keep reaching into it and getting an endless supply of arrows. And we wanted to do that because to some extent, when you're watching Lord of the Rings, it does seem kind of silly that Legolas shoots 80 arrows and still has some available. So we wanted to have something that was a little bit more logical. And on top of that, it ended up kind of working retroactively for us because Heart of the Forest did not start as a book. It was supposed to be a game. So the mechanic would have been, this is how you don't have to worry about things in game being, hey, I ran out of ammunition.
Right. Yeah, I think that it's one of those things where, like, I get it for the sake of realism, but it also is an annoying takeaway. Like, I ran out of arrows.
Yep.
Now I'm useless entirely. Useless.
And one of the other things that we've talked about before is that we liken the creation of the arrows to termites being in the quiver and regurgitating wood to create the arrows. I feel like a tantrum is coming on.
Oh, for sure. She's getting in position.
Yep. All right, so we are up to our final artifact of the night. This is Sepulchre's Claw. Do you recall what Sepulchre's Claw is?
I remember the name being cool, but I don't remember what it does.
Do you remember who it belonged to?
One of the Black Lineans?
Nope.
So wrong.
This belongs.
Shamed my husband.
So this is a wooden dowel that belongs to Hokeland of Crescentshire. The whole concept of Sepulchre's Claw is that it looks like a wooden, almost like a toy sword, as we describe it in the original timeline. But obviously, as we've mentioned before, Azat don't play around when it comes to his artwork. So we've got,
and we're not gonna, you know. I can't. It's so hard to do this when it's like a PG,
right?
Like I'm a potty mouth.
I'm a bad word user.
It's so like I try to do like synonyms in my head for what I want to say.
Cinnamon.
We're not going to discourage his creativity.
There you
That's
go.
what we'll do.
So Sepulchre's Claw is a wooden dowel that actually is vampiric. So someone might think, oh, I'm going to break this sword in two the second I hit it with my own weapon. It's indestructible, number one. It came from, I believe, a corpsewood tree is how I describe it. And the magic keeps it from being broken. But more than that, it's vampiric. So it's lightweight. Hokeland can wield it very quickly. And as soon as somebody kind of second guesses it, it ends up being their downfall, because he doesn't even have to stab you with it. All he has to do is touch you with it, and it saps away your life force and ends up, dealing necrotic damage and, basically, stealing away.
Really bad splinter.
Yes, the worst splinter. A splinter that, reverses your life. And it ends up just being a very fun kind of little thing for him. He's a very cool thief character in the Tellest universe, and I think between his warging kind of abilities, which I did first.
Yeah, I remember when we watched Game of Thrones, and the first time that they showed the eyeballs going white or something when he wore it, you were like, they stole that from me.
It's really funny because we also have Anson the Bard, and his whole thing is the really loud carrying voice and everything like that. And not to say that, Black Bolt from the Marvel Universe didn't exist, or Banshee or anything like that. But Anson Mount, who, plays Captain Pike, and he played Black Bolt, and it was like, what are the chances?
And his name was Anson.
Yeah. So that wraps us up for today. That's our first 10, but as you can see, we have a bunch. Rihanna had told us earlier we got to 41. The fun thing is, if you go to the front page of the Tellest website right now, you can see it's at least number 42, because Stephen Belshaw has been working on, I believe, 30 more items for us.
We're gonna have lots of topics to discuss.
Yeah. So the treasure talking Tellest episodes will run for a decent amount of time, but in any case, thank you for joining us, and we hope you had fun learning a little bit more about the treasures of Tellest. We'll be sure to get this lined up for Volume 2 at some point in the future, and that'll wrap us up there. But we are going to switch over to our show closing page.
Do you want some chalky milk?
I think.
Do the man want some chalky milk? You can shake your head no, but say yes on the camera.
I think I want some chalky milk.
Oh, that's a shaking head yes. That's a chalky milk boy right there.
That's a chalky milk boy.
Hilarious.
All right. Yep. Anyway, so on the screen right now, you should see all the places that you can find Tellest out there on the internet. The place that we just were, and the place that you should probably stop first, because you'll be able to find all the stuff that we work on, including promos for other fantasy, sci-fi, lit RPG, and horror authors, is Tellest.com. But if you want to see our premium goods, you can go to patreon.com/Tellest to see our digital stuff, including our battle maps and the art that we post on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Or you can go to Tellest.etsy.com, which is where you can go to find our premium physical goods, including mouse pads, bookmarks, stickers, the books. We've got Rihanna's awesome magic wands there. And speaking of which, you can go to tiktok.com/@weirdwitchwands, where you can which you can see on the bottom of the screen right now. That's where you can see when she puts her promotional videos together for the wands. The second TikTok, you know what? I want to take a moment to take my hands a little bit further away from the microphone and just give an applause to Luna
for being such a good girl.
She didn't have a tantrum today.
Didn't. Come here, baby. You did good.
So TikTok.com/@Tales of Tellest, and Tales in this case is spelled Tails. That is where you can find Luna and give her the reward of a like and a follow for being a well-behaved little poochie today. And then the last two places that'll bring your attention to are our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@WorldOfTellest. That's where you can find these videos after Twitch says, hey, get off our channel. But if you do want to see it live, twitch.tv/ThatTellestGuy is the way to go. And that'll wrap us up for tonight. We will be back tomorrow for making maps, and we'll be back again next Monday for more Talking Tellest. Thank you for joining, and
we'll miss you.
Thank you.